All right, today we are jumping into a book that has, no exaggeration, been a total game changer for millions. James Clear's Atomic Habits. The whole premise is simple, but it's also really profound. You don't need some massive, life-altering event to transform yourself. Nope. All you need are tiny, 1% improvements. Let's dig in and see how that actually works.
But first, let's start with a feeling I think we all know way too well. You know that spark of motivation on January 1st? You get the new gym membership, you swear you're going to learn Spanish, and then, slowly but surely, by February, it just fizzles out. We've all been there, right? We know how unbelievably hard it is to make a new, good habit stick. So the real question is, why? Is it just that we're all lacking willpower?
Well, according to James Clear, the problem isn't you, it's your system. And this quote, man, it gets right to the absolute heart of his entire argument. He points out that winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. I mean, every Olympian wants to win gold, right? So what really separates them? It's not their ambition. It's the daily process they follow. So the big takeaway here, stop blaming yourself and start looking at your approach.
And that brings us to the book's central kind of ha-ha moment, the power of tiny compounding gains. Clear calls habits the compound interest of self-improvement. It's just brilliant. It's not about making one giant leap, it's about taking one tiny little step every single day.
The math behind this number is really what makes the 1% rule so mind-blowing. If you get just 1% better each day for a whole year, you won't be 365% better. That's not how it works. Because of the magic of compounding, you'll end up, get this, 37 times better. Now, on the flip side, getting 1% worse each day, that brings you almost all the way down to zero. It's such a powerful way to see how these tiny daily choices just snowball into incredible results over time.
So how do we actually apply this? Well, we do it by shifting our focus. Goals are the results you want, like run a marathon. But systems? Systems are the processes that get you there, like just putting on my running shoes after work every single day. Clear's point is that if you focus on the system, the goal will pretty much take care of itself. You're not just trying to win the game one time, you're building a system that lets you keep playing, day in and day out.
But there's an even deeper layer to all this. The most powerful, lasting changes happen when our habits become part of our identity. So instead of saying, I want to read more, you start thinking, I am a reader. And every single time you pick up a book, even if it's for just 2 minutes, you're casting a vote for that new identity. This completely shifts the focus from outcomes to who you believe you are. Okay, so if systems and identity are the what, then how? How do we actually do any of this? This is where Clear gives us this brilliantly simple, totally actionable framework, the 4 laws of behavior change. Let's break them down. First things first, we got to understand the basic science. Every single habit you have, good or bad, follows this simple 4-step loop in your brain. A cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which then provides a reward. And that reward satisfies the craving and, crucially, teaches your brain, hey, let's do that again. It's a simple, powerful, and constant feedback mechanism running in the background of our lives. The 4 laws are basically a practical cheat sheet for hacking this loop to build good habits, and each law maps perfectly onto one of those steps. So, to create a good habit, we want to make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. And guess what? To break a bad habit, you just flip them. You just invert these laws. Simple as that.
Let's start with law number 1. Make it obvious. This one targets the cue. Think about it. You're way more likely to practice guitar if it's sitting on a stand in the middle of your living room, right? Not if it's packed away in a case in the closet. The whole idea is to stop relying on sheer motivation and instead just design your environment so the right choice is the most obvious one.
And a fantastic strategy here is something called habit stacking. You just anchor the new habit you want to an existing one you already do without thinking. So instead of a vague goal like, I'll meditate more, you make a super specific plan. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Your current habit, the coffee, becomes the perfect cue for the new one. Next up, Law 2, make it attractive. This is all about the craving. All our habits are driven by the anticipation of a reward. So we can make habits way more attractive by linking them to positive feelings. Or, and this is a big one, by joining a culture where the behavior you want is just the normal thing to do. If all your friends are avid runners, running just becomes more attractive, doesn't it? A really powerful strategy for this one is called temptation bundling. It's so clever. You just pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. For example, maybe you only let yourself watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the treadmill. All of a sudden, that workout becomes a whole lot more attractive. Law 3, make it easy, is all about the response. Look, our brains are basically wired to follow the path of least resistance. The more friction a habit has, whether that's time, energy, or just extra steps, the less likely we are to do it. The goal here is really simple. Make good habits feel as effortless as possible.
And maybe the most powerful strategy for this is the 2-minute rule. So you want to read more? Start by just reading 1 page. Want to run a 5K? You start by just putting on your running shoes. That's it. The goal is to make starting the habit so ridiculously easy that you can't possibly say no. You master the art of just showing up, and I promise you, the rest will follow.
And finally, Law 4, make it satisfying. This one closes the loop by focusing on the reward. Our brains, well, they evolved to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term ones. We want the payoff now. So for a habit to stick, it has to be enjoyable or satisfying right away. That feeling of success, even a tiny one, is the signal to your brain that says, hey, this was good. This is worth repeating.
Now, this all sounds really good in practice, right? But what makes it so compelling is that this isn't just some self-help theory. Clear's framework is built on a really solid foundation of neuroscience and psychology.
So what's actually going on inside our skulls? Well, research from places like MIT shows that when a habit forms, brain activity literally shifts. It moves from the prefrontal cortex, that's the part for conscious, effortful thinking, to a deeper, more automatic region called the basal ganglia. Your brain is basically outsourcing the task to save mental energy. It's putting it on autopilot. And that's the science behind how habits become second nature.
What's more, Clear's laws aren't just things he made up. They are these brilliant, practical applications of long-established psychological principles. Making it obvious uses something called implementation intentions. Making it attractive is basically an application of the Premack principle, which you probably know as Grandma's rule. You have to eat your vegetables before you get dessert. And making it satisfying, that's a direct line from B.F. Skinner's classic operant condition.
So, okay, the system is practical, it's easy to understand, and it's scientifically sound. But like any framework, it's worth taking a look at it from all angles to see if it's really the right fit for everyone. And while it is incredibly popular, the book does have some critiques. Some people find that it repeats its key concepts a few too many times. But more substantially, some critics point out that it puts a heavy emphasis on individual responsibility, and that might overlook really big systemic barriers, things like socioeconomic status or mental health challenges that can make changing habits a lot more complicated. It's also largely framed within an individualistic Western point of view.
It's also important to remember this isn't the only game in town. A key alternative you'll hear about is Tiny Habits by the Stanford behavior scientist B.J. Fogg. Now, while both focus on starting small, Fogg's approach is much more about emotion. It's about celebrating those tiny successes to feel good in the moment. Clear's approach, on the other hand, is more strategic and system-based, really focused on that long-term compound effect. Neither one is better, really. They just offer different paths to the same goal. But in the end, I think the most powerful, resonant idea in all of Atomic Habits might just be this one. It's such a profound reminder that real change isn't about some single heroic act. It's just about the accumulation of small, daily votes that slowly build the evidence of your new identity.
So that leaves us with one final, very practical question. Forget about the grand plans for next year or even next month. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is one tiny, almost insignificant vote you can cast for the person you want to become right now, today?